A piece of technology created by one of the world's biggest social media companies was turned into a weapon for mass harassment. And it all started with a simple photograph. In early 2026, an AI tool on a platform used by millions began an attack on an industrial scale. In just 11 days, it created 3 million non-consensual sexually explicit images. This is how a simple feature became a factory for abuse. Now, this wasn't some kind of accident. It wasn't a glitch in the system. It was the completely predictable result of a series of deliberate choices that tore down critical safety measures one by one. So let's look at the timeline of how this happened. December 2024, the AI gets an image generator. A year later, they roll out a so-called spicy mode, which was designed specifically to create more explicit content. By December 2025, users figured out the weapon's true purpose. It could digitally strip the clothes from any photo. And then, just weeks later, in January 2026, it detonated. The abuse went global. You see, the real danger of this tool wasn't how complex it was how simple it was. It was built for public use, on a public platform, turning a deeply personal violation into a worldwide spectacle. The process itself was brutally efficient. Just 4 steps. First, someone targets any photo they want. Second, they reply with a simple text command tagging the AI. Third, the AI generates a sexually explicit, fake version of that photo. And fourth, it posts the new image publicly, right there in the replies, for millions of people, including the victim, to see. This is what's known as NCII. Let's be crystal clear about what this is. Non-consensual intimate imagery. The most important part of that phrase is non-consensual. This isn't just about something being obscene. The core harm here, the crime, is the total violation of a person's consent. It's a digital assault. The fallout was immediate. It was staggering. This kind of abuse used to be hidden away in the dark corners of the internet. Suddenly, it was being mass-produced out in the open by the platform's very own tool. At its peak, the tool was getting 6,700 requests every single hour to generate these images. Think about that. There is no moderation system on Earth that could possibly keep up with that kind of speed. The platform's own users had weaponized its technology against each other. And then the abuse crossed a horrifying line. Investigators believe that of the millions of images generated, at least 23,000 appeared to depict children. The tool was being used to create child sexual abuse material. And the data makes one thing very clear. This wasn't random. The targets were overwhelmingly women and girls. In fact, 90% of all victims of non-consensual intimate imagery are female. This wasn't just a tool. It was a tool for gendered harassment. The Center for Countering Digital Hate summed it up perfectly. They said the platform's AI had become an industrial-scale machine for the production of sexual abuse material. It wasn't just hosting abusive content anymore. Its own product was manufacturing it, on demand. As the scale of this harm became impossible to ignore, governments around the world finally started to move in. The platform was no longer just a tech company, it was now the scene of a global crime. What followed was a wave of what you might call regulatory contagion. Indonesia and Malaysia moved fast, blocking the tool completely. The EU and the UK launched formal investigations under their new digital safety laws. Authorities in France even raided the company's offices in Paris. And right here in India, the government issued a legal notice demanding compliance. Back in the company's home country, the United States, there was no federal action. But at the state level, the pressure started to build. A coalition of 35 state attorneys general from both political parties launched their own investigations, demanding to know how a product this obviously dangerous was ever released to the public. Now, India's government did respond with that legal notice, which was a start, but this whole crisis exposed a deep, systemic failure in our country's laws. It exposed a dangerous gap in how we govern artificial intelligence. You see, India's current approach treats the symptom, not the disease. Our laws are designed for social media platforms. They focus on taking down harmful images after the damage is already done. But the real solution is to regulate the AI system itself, to mandate safety testing before a tool like this is ever deployed, and to put binding legal obligations on the AI developers, not just the platforms that use their tech. And here's the crucial point. The law sees the social media platform, but it's blind to the AI. This has created a massive regulatory gray zone. The government's official fear is that regulating AI too strongly will hurt innovation, but the reality is that fear leaves Indian citizens completely vulnerable. Right now, there is no legal framework that forces AI companies to build safety in from the very start, and unless that changes, this will happen again. What happened with Grok isn't just a story, it's a warning. It proves that without direct, intelligent regulation of high-risk AI, any photo you have ever shared online can be turned into a weapon and used against you. Your privacy, your dignity, it's all at risk. So the question for India isn't if we should regulate AI, it's how fast can we act before the next crisis hits. What do you think the government must do to protect its citizens? Let us know in the comments.